when I woke up, very confused. She said, "You almost died last night. In fact, no one can believe you were alive."
I went into the games not knowing what was coming.
As humans, we just hate uncertainty.
You just sensed that it was out there.
You have to start somewhere.
We're all programmed to push ourselves even farther.
This is On the X, an IRONCLAD original. Welcome to On the X. My guest today is Tony Horton, the creator of P90X, one of the most successful fitness programs ever made. Over the past 2 decades, Tony has built a career around helping others transform through movement, discipline, and consistency. He's written best-selling books, launched multiple fitness platforms, and become a trusted voice in the world of wellness. Today, we talk about the evolution of fitness, staying sharp as we age, and how to build real resilience in a world full of shortcuts. So here we go with Tony Horton on the X. But it's interesting. I obviously know who you are. And it's funny. I was thinking about a couple weeks ago, I interviewed Admiral McCraven, Bill McCraven, who, storied career in the SEAL teams and obviously very high profile with the Bin Laden raid and all of that. Mm-hmm. But there's so many people that know him as the make your bed guy. And it's even my kids, when they're listening to the episode, they're like, who are you talking to? And my wife is like, it's the make your bed guy. Oh, the make your bed guy. Got it. And that's kind of the way he's known. And I think for a lot of people, you're the P90X guy, right? Like that's like, right. Even they don't know your name.
They might know the name. They might not. Yeah.
But it's the P90 and almost everybody knows who that is. When you think about that, yeah. When you think about that, how does that resonate with you? Is that like, do you love that? Is that like a legacy that you love or not?
I think at the time I did because, that's what brung me. There was also, nobody ever said, oh, he's the P90X2 guy or the P90X3 guy, which I also made. But yeah, it was part of the series, right? And, now that's kind of history a little bit. It's a water under the bridge. The company Beachbody and I didn't end up on great terms in the end. No hard feelings, whatever. They moved on. I moved on. So I'd rather be called something else other than the P90X guy at this point. But if people say it and they do it, I mean, I'm not going to chastise anybody for, just because that's how they know me, because they went through the same kind of journey or some form of the journey that Bruno went through. Yeah. Right. So kind of stuck, kind of confused, not in great shape, or maybe they were in shape and needed to get back in shape, whatever it was, needed to lose 25 pounds. Jeremy Yost lost 180 pounds. Kathy Smith lost 125 pounds. The stories go on and on and on. One guy lost 224 pounds, which is just a freak show. I can't even imagine. But, and I met them all and I know them all. That's why their names come to the forefront of my head. But yeah, so yeah, I don't mind being the P90X guy. I'd rather be the Power Nation guy, which is where I am now. Yeah.
Right, that's your thing now.
Yeah.
But just kind of going back a little bit though, for people that aren't familiar with kind of your ascension to fame and all of that, how did you, because you're sort of self-described 98-pound weakling. I mean, you kind of say that about yourself.
Yeah.
So sort of like Bruno's story, what was the shift for you? Like what got you on this path of fitness in the first place?
Well, I think a lot of people, I got on it and then I got off it and then I got on it and I got off it. I mean, I got on it back in college when I took a weightlifting class. I just thought, that'd be interesting. I don't know much about that. I played a lot of intramural sports. Yep. I played hoop. I loved hoop. I was on the football team in high school, but I didn't play much. I sat on the bench for most of it. I just wanted to wear jerseys on a Friday so I could, get attention, I think. And I didn't have great guidance as a kid. My dad was an amazing athlete. He was a 3-sport captain, basketball, football, baseball captain back in the 50s. But he was on the road a lot. His job took him on the road. I didn't see my dad except for the weekends, really, for the most part, because what he did for a living. So I didn't have a mentor or a coach or a teacher or anybody. And the coaches back in those days, and this hasn't changed much. A lot of coaches are just too brutal on, and look at any coach in whatever, college or professional right? Some are sort of, some can kind of read the room and they're kind of a rah-rah guy and they're really looking out for every individual. And other ones just care about the win-loss column. And if you don't perform, you're gone, you know what I mean? Or you get chastised or something. And that's the experience that I had. Sort of wasn't the best. But when I took this weightlifting course in college, the guy was maybe only 8 years older than I was. He had only graduated college, a few years before me, and he was like a buddy. He was like a friend, and the whole point of that class was to have him show me how to do things in a way so that I would keep coming to class and improve over the course of the semester. And he was brilliant at it. He had a great sense of humor. I had a great personality, and he really was looking out for all of us in that class, which was cool. I go, wow, this is different than high school football. That guy was just a bonehead, right? And this guy was just a pal. And then, of course, my GPA went up that month because I wasn't aware of the fact that all this physical activity was changing the way I looked at the world. My creativity, productivity, my mood, my sleep patterns, all those things improved. I just thought it was coincidence. You know what I mean?
Really?
And yeah, I just thought it was like, oh, wow, I'm in a better mood now, My diet didn't change much back then. I'm in college. I'm eating burgers and hot dogs and pizza, and drinking beer and Dr. Pepper, smoking some weed here and there. Because it was the 70s. But yeah, so that all changed. Then I met John Rady, who wrote the book Spark, the effects of physical activity on the brain. I went, oh, that explains why I was doing better in school for a semester. And then whatever, that semester came and went. And then I didn't go back to the gym. I got back to just kind of playing sports. And then I got kind of out of shape again. I never got really heavy. I'm an ectomorph, man. So I'm naturally thin. And then I went off I came off to California in 1980 and I was blown away by the phenomenon of gyms everywhere. They weren't just on the college campus or at high school. They were, you could join a gym and work out at a gym. And I wanted to go to I did that, the Sports Connection here down in Santa Monica, and it's not even called that anymore. I wanted to go there just for the social pieces to it. I mean, you would go clubbing and you do it that way, but I just wanted to, and I had that, I remember coming here and being out of shape. And then, it's a beach community. We were down in Hermosa Beach, Huntington Beach, Newport Beach. I didn't really look the way I wanted to look, right? So it was all about ego and aesthetics back in those days, and meeting girls and meeting new buds. And I liked the way that felt. I liked it. So I kind of stuck with it. I bought a year membership, and then that membership kind of expired, and I just kept going. And I was a 2 or 3 times a week guy. And then I was playing hoop, or I was playing, two-hand touch football, or where there's this game at the beach called Over the Line. I don't know if you know what that is. It's a fun game. Mm-hmm. Yep. Over the Line's a blast. And that was it. So it was really sort of intramural sports, going to the gym a couple times a week to keep my physique good enough so that I could take my shirt off at the beach. And anyway, to make a long story good, I got a job as a runner, as a Fox at 20th Century Fox with a woman by the name of Julia Phillips, who her and her ex-husband, when I met her, he was an ex-husband. They produced Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Taxi Driver with De Niro, and their first one was The Sting with Paul Newman and Robert Redford. And so, here I am on the lot, and the cool thing, and I was a young actor at that point, going on auditions, and I got the gig because, I could run around town. They'd give me whatever time I needed to go on an audition. And my agent at that point said, you got to get in a little bit better shape if you want to work more. The better shape you are, the more things I can send you out on. So I was into it, And when they hired me, I don't think I was in a phase where I was in great shape, because I got my agent about a month or two after I got the job, and my the other guy that worked with Julia, his name was Harlan Goodman, who was in the music industry prior. He's like, damn, dude, you look like 3 months in. He goes, you look a lot different than you did when you got here. Like, what's happening? I go, well, I got the agent. I'm going on the auditions. They told me to get in shape. And he said, can you do that for me? Not certified, no clue. I mean, I was a member of World Gym, and I would just spy on Arnold Schwarzenegger and Lou Ferrigno, like, what are those doing? Like, oh, there's Arnold. Let me see. 75 sets of chest. Seems like a lot, but okay, maybe.
Like, for real? You were like, they were there at the same time?
At World Gym, yeah.
Oh, that's so cool.
All the top American bodybuilders were at World. And prior to that, they were at Gold's Gym. And then Joe Gold, whatever, he sold the name. And then Joe Gold opened up his own gym, which was World Gym. And if you look at the logos, they're very the same. Like the Gold's Gym logo is like the bald guy with the big dumbbells in their bed. And then the World Gym one was a gorilla. Same thing, right? if you know even know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I totally do. Yeah.
So Joe Gold ran the front desk. You'd walk in, and there was Joe Gold. You sign in, and then Arnold would walk in with his entourage, and he'd have a pair of Vans on, some a tank top, and some Hawaiian surf shorts. That's how Arnold used to work out. And this is right in the heyday of his movie making days in the 80s. And there was Lou Ferrigno too. Lou, I think what was the TV show? The Lou
Hulk.
Ferrigno. The Hulk, yeah. So it was really cool because they were right over there, and then like Maria Shriver when they were married I'd be doing bicep curls next to Maria Shriver. It was nuts, man. And you'd go in there and work out just because they were in there forever. You would stay in there as long as they were because you're just like, okay, all right. So lifting much bigger than me and whatever, and they were probably all juicing up a little bit, which I just never signed up for that. But and those were the early days, and then I started training my boss, Harlan, and working on the Fox lot for this woman. I won't say her name. You might know her name. I don't want to throw her under the bus, but God, she was crazy out of her mind. You know what I mean? Like I get fired every Friday after a week because I forgot to put one of the light bulbs in at the bottom of the driveway. And then Harlan would call me, dude, you're not fired. Just come back. I got hired on Friday and rehired on Monday for quite a long time there. And then he got in great shape. And so at that point, I probably had a couple of secretaries. I had these 2 doctors, husband and wife team that I was training. And I was still...
And you were not certified at, like you weren't I don't even know if they had it back then, but like a CSCF.
They did. They probably had NASM early stages back in the 80s and others, But I had been doing it for so many years and watching all the bodybuilders. And I had a friend of mine that was a track athlete. So I was doing a lot of track. I learned from them. And then I started doing aerobics, you know what I mean? Because I'd look in that aerobics room and it'd be like, 80 women and no dudes. And I go, can guys go in there? And they go, yeah, I'm going in, And so whatever. And then I took some boxing classes, but I'm a quick study. It's like, most of the stuff is linear, push-ups, pull-ups, whatever, and I did a little studying. I had some books on kinesiology and exercise science that I would kind of dabble in. But mostly it was, borrowing and stealing from other people in the gym that looked really ripped and going to the track and watching folks on the track who were like doing their, 45-minute warm-ups and just sort of, I call it the Abe Lincoln method of learning, just kind of by experience. And so anyway, Harlan and I left the gal who was the producer because she was nuts and she got kicked off the lot. So now we're like working out of her house on Benedict Canyon. It was just like, this is not what it was supposed to be. And so, all right, I went back to doing mime on the pier once in a while. I went back to, that's another story. I was a go-go dancer at Chippendales for a while. And that was fun. Yeah. So whatever odd job that I had, I was a handyman. I did a lot of cabinetry. I made tables and end tables and coffee tables for a local Pier 1. Dude, I was just trying to survive, right?
Yeah.
And having fun, and being single and going out and doing whatever. But then, Harlan went back to East End Management. At that point, it was on Sunset Boulevard. And he's looking all lean and ripped and walking down the hallway is Tom Petty smoking a cigarette. He says, Harlan, holy crap, man, what happened to you? You look fantastic. Harlan says, I've been working out with this trainer like a horse trainer. No, like a workout trainer. Oh, I didn't know that was a thing. I'm doing the cigarette. You like it? And he goes, yeah, his name is Tony Horton. Tony Horton. Who's this Tony Horton? Well, he's my trainer, not certified, clueless, but Harlan didn't tell him that. I don't even think Harlan knew. So the following day, I write this in my book.
Yeah, I know. I read it. So I was.
Oh, yeah. So I think I'm it verbatim. Yeah. So Bob picks up the phone. It's Tom Petty. Bob thinks it's guys downstairs effing around. So I say, hang up on Tom Petty. And he did. And the phone rang again. And Bob goes, hey, man, this sounds a hell of a lot like Tom Petty. I pick up the phone. It's Tom Petty. He goes, hey, I'm a friend of Harlan Goodman's. I'm going on tour. I'm fat and nobody likes a fat rocker, man. So you've set me up. So I went to his house in Woodland Hills, big, really rockin' cool pad, big long driveway, the gate, the whole 9 yards, gold and platinum records on the wall and still smoking that cigarette. And I did a little fitness analysis, and he was as weak as a chicken, with COVID. He was it was like training a worm, it was crazy. But, I can read a room, I understood. I say, hey, let's start out small. I got him a heavy bag. I got him an old Life Cycle. I don't know if you remember the old Life Cycles, man.
Yeah. Yep.
And I got him a bench and some dumbbells and a mat, you know, and I had him for 4 months. When I first started with him, he couldn't bench 12-pound dumbbells, dude. His arms would just go in every direction. Could like a couple of 12s. It was like, whoa. He just wasn't used to have a, you know, counterweight. And push-ups, you know, we had to, I don't teach push-ups on your knees anymore, but we had to do that. He liked the heavy bag though. He liked being aggressive, and I taught him the basics, you know, and 4 months later, he's benching 45s. On the life cycle, I had to turn it off for him for his legs to go around. Like you know, that little button, the on-off button at the bottom, just, I can do it now, you know. And I got him on level 6 for 25 minutes, and then we'd hit the heavy bag, and then we'd go through our chest to back, shoulders and arms, or, you know, a leg day. He hated leg day, so we did a lot of the bike was kind of the way to get there. And 4 months later, you know, level 6, 25 minutes on the bike, benching 45s. His voice was better. He looked amazing. He was, because he was an ectomorph too. He got super, you know, super striated and vascular. He started cutting off all the sleeves on his shirts, wearing vests without shirts. And then he went off on tour, man. And he was just probably his best energy ever, best look ever.
Sure.
And then partway through around 4th of July, he calls I'm back at my family's house. I always go back, my mom and dad's place. They've passed since, and then the phone rings, you know, this is back when, you know, you had one phone in the kitchen and the extension cord went around the house, you know what I mean? And it was avocado green, weird. My mother comes running down the hall with the cord stretched out. Tom Petty is on the phone for you. Like, what? I didn't give him my number. He's on tour. Yeah. Hey, Tony, Jane and I, that was his wife at the time, we're getting fat again, man. Can you come? You want to go on tour? So I was there for the New York, Jersey, Long Island part of the tour, about 3 weeks. Just an amazing thing. So, you know, he gets off tour, and he and Billy Idol had the same management company. So, you know, everybody heard about Tom's results, and especially at the management company. So, right, mate, bloody hell, F&I can't do the whole thing, you know. So Billy called me, can you do that for me? And then it was Billy and Bruce Springsteen and Sean Connery and Shirley MacLaine and half of Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks and Lindsey Buckingham and Bryce Dallas Howard and Ewan McGregor, who I still train on occasion. I still train Ewan whenever for a movie or a show or something. But yeah, and I'm auditioning, and then I got a couple of shows. I got a show on Playboy channel called 360, so I'm getting that whole on-camera experience. That show had 3 cameras and a co-host. Plus, I was going to Nordic Track. They were out of Minneapolis, and I was doing their infomercials. So a lot of things were all happening at once, training celebrities, getting to kind of know them, stealing, not, you know, I'm showing them stuff, and I'm stealing pieces of their personality, which I thought was, my lip goes up all the time because of 5 years with Billy Idol.
That's so cool.
Yeah, man. And so, young entrepreneur Carl Deichler comes out of Philly. We become friends through a friend, and he kind of sees my goofiness and my techniques. And he goes, dude, I've never met a trainer who's like fun to be with and shows me easier ways to do things as opposed to just screaming at me because I'm not doing 100 reps of something. And he goes, can you duplicate this on in front of a TV set? You know what I mean? And with dumbbells and bands, I go, I got that covered, you know, because I mean, all my clients have all the equipment. I mean, I design most of their gyms.
Can I ask you something about that though? Like before you got into that, it just seems to me that, I mean, I'm sure there were other sort of celebrity trainers out there at that time, right? There had to be other people.
A lot of them. I was just one of dozens, I'm sure. Yeah.
But were you, I mean, to your point, it's like you're taking stuff that, hey, it works for this person, right? Like, I mean, at some point, fitness is fitness. It's like, it's just kind of like recycling the same things in different patterns and things like that. Annie
Lennox from the Eurythmics didn't do the same routines that I gave Bruce.
Of course, yeah. Right. So I guess the question there is, what were you doing that was so different and effective for these people that maybe other trainers weren't?
Well, P90X is we called it muscle confusion, you know, which was Billy Idol used to call me Muscle Confucius. That's where muscle confusion came from what Billy. I go, we're gonna change things up. All right, so today's kind of a cardio day. Today's a martial arts day. Today's sort of a weight only. Today's a body weight calisthenics day. You know, today there wasn't really HIIT training back then, but I would just say, hey, let's just go with more reps, lighter weight. He goes, you know, I didn't want anybody to fall into a pattern. You know what I mean? So my feeling was, and this was only because of my own ADD and ADHD. You know what I mean? I don't want to do that today. What are you doing? Oh, that's different than what I'm doing. Oh, okay, let me try that. Oh, I don't feel like going up there and lifting weights and hanging out on other people's sweat. I'm just going to do cardio, and then I'm just going to do a martial arts class. And I noticed, I got, of course, being ectomorph helped, but I got really lean, really strong, really fast, and so I did the same thing.
That is different, though. I mean, that is a good point. I think because certainly for me growing up, seeing various fitness things out there, whatever it may be, it was very repetitive. Everything that idea of, like, I'm a CrossFit guy, right? And CrossFit is kind of all about that. It's about intent. I mean, stuff you talk about, variety, intensity, and then consistency of showing up at the gym.
Yeah.
Right?
The WOD changes every day. Right.
Right. So it's different stuff. And there's movements in there that repeat, certainly, but that's the whole point.
Sure. Yeah.
And like for me, I don't know that I had seen that really before CrossFit came along. I had like my weightlifting routines, and I would run and I would swim, and it was very like this routine. Okay. It was, it was chest and tries and back and bis and run. Right. And you just flip back and forth between that stuff.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, that's a good point. I guess I had never considered that idea of like, we're really going to change it up. You're going to do this one day and this the other day, and then we're going to do something completely different over here, was not prevalent. You mentioned like Nordic track was like, you're just going to get on the Nordic track every day and just, do that thing.
I would, if clients had the room and had the space, I would have as many pieces of cardio equipment in their gym as possible. Yeah. And we would go 3 minutes on the bike, 3 minutes on the treadmill, 3 minutes on the VersaClimber, 3 minutes, doing the stairs, 3 minutes, blah, 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 blah. Right. So you're avoiding the boredom, injuries, and plateaus that come from doing the spam risk, not getting that. I mean, I used to get on the VersaClimber for an hour before I knew better, man. Like, just, I'd have some Radiohead and some Nine Inch Nails playing or whatever else I needed, some Police or something. And I would just go, you know what I mean? And then I realized that, like tonight, for example, and there was a version I was doing that with especially Stephen Stills. He had the from Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young. Yep. He had I know that how old are you, Chris?
I'll be 50 in a couple months.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to be 67 in a couple of months. When's your birthday?
August 6th.
July 2nd. Stephen, he had like the first ever big screen TV. It was as deep as it was wide, you know what I mean? And he was a rocker and he was a little bit deaf, so I had to scream everything. But we had a bike, a mini tramp, a rowing machine, and a treadmill in a half circle facing the TV set. And he didn't want to do more than a minute. Like he couldn't even do. I go, go next, and he'd jump up and down and go, and then he'd get on the bike and whatever. But if I put him on something for 5 minutes, he'd be like, "Yeah, coach, I'm bored. I don't want to do this." So I was always having to be really, really creative with these folks, and I had them all hitting heavy bags pretty much, except for some of the gals didn't want to do that. But and it worked. It worked for me. It worked for them, and it wasn't based on anything I learned from NASM or any other kinesiology books or anything else. It was really to kind of create stamina and keep them from getting bored so they wouldn't continue to cancel workouts. I think a lot of trainers, if they only had a very kind of a myopic approach, you know what I mean? Like trainers, like this is who they are. This is their personality. They probably played high school sports or college sports. And now their job is to take somebody who's twice their age and give them similar versions of the shit they did back then. You're not going to be successful, right? So, I mean, and everybody's different. Like you look at Hemsworth, right? That guy his trainer just beats the living snot out of him, and he probably because he loves it, and
I'm sure he does.
He needs to be big. It's all about, it's all about that in the movies. So.
On the X is brought to you by Mechanix Wear. Mechanix Wear gloves are kind of the go-to glove, I think, for most people out there, whether it's working around the house or on the job or some kind of tactical setting. That's certainly been the case for me throughout my life, and they've made a whole bunch of improvements to the gloves that they have out there. So they've got the kind of original series here with the Velcro backing and the Velcro close that most people can use in sort of everyday settings, very ubiquitous for various things that you might want to do. Then they've got these fast fit ones, which you essentially just slide on. There's a little loop there around the wrist where you can pull them on. And then they've got the Impact series, which has a reinforced backing to protect your knuckles. And then they've got this lock ring reinforcement around the thumb now, where there's a lot of wear and tear. There's a whole bunch of other improvements to these. And if you go to their website, they literally have a 5 to 7 minute video about each one of these sets of gloves and all the improvements they've made, from the material, reducing the seams, making them more reinforced, making them more moisture wicking. It's clear that they put a lot of care and attention into their gloves. And if you listen to the guy talk on the website, they really love gloves. And I think that that comes out in everything they do. When I'm going out to a hardware store and I'm looking for some gloves, I almost look at everything else as just kind of a cheap knockoff. So definitely my go-to glove, highly recommended. Mechanix Wear gloves, they're available at most retailers on mechanicswear.com and GSA Advantage, and they're proud to offer an exclusive 15% off discount through the ID.me program to military veterans and first responders. So check them out. So you were saying though, like, then how does this come together into this video series and why does it work so well? I mean, that's the other thing, right? Like, I mean, we were talking at the beginning there with Bruna about, you see infomercials, for lack of a better term, all the time. And most of them, I assume, are very cheap products that don't do, like, you know, they make some margin, they must, you know, but I'm not interested in those. But this is clearly something that resonated with people and worked in a huge way, right? I mean, I was thinking about it too. Like, I'm trying to think of people that are known at the level you are from a like fitness trainer perspective, like that thing. Like, I think of Richard Simmons, not Gene Simmons.
Simmons, yes.
Different guy.
God, he was a great.
Richard Simmons as kind of, I almost
Jane
like
Fonda, Richard Simmons, Kathy Smith, Shalad. Remember Shalad? He used to have those workouts at the beach, you know, with a bunch of pretty women in bikinis.
But then like Tybo, Billy Blanks, right? Like that.
Yeah, Billy Blanks was another one. There's not a lot of us. There's not.
There's not. So
Jack LaLanne was the first, really, back in the day.
Who was it?
Jack LaLanne.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
Jack LaLanne,
I know what you're talking about. So how does that happen? How does that come together and work? Like, you know, what was this
serendipity is part of it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Right time, right place. Coming up with something like what I created was the antithesis of almost everything else that you saw on TV. Everything else was a shortcut piece of equipment that you would buy. Like, you look at the Total Gym, right? They had Chuck Norris, who was pushing the Total Gym, and who was the model too? Christy Brinkley, was that her name? And, you know, whatever. But you've got this thing in the house. You know what I mean? And so that thing doesn't talk to you. You have to figure out how to get on that thing and just go through your routine by yourself on that thing in your house. And it might work for a while. You might stay motivated for a while. I mean, you could, if I asked you, who are your favorite coaches, your favorite trainers, your favorite, you know, personalities, who are your favorite, whatever, it's because you resonate with some aspect of them, you know, whatever, their courage or their sense of humor or their knowledge or whatever it is. And, you know, I think my thing worked, because it was different than everything else. And it required you to work out 6 days a week and eat vegetables. It was like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, eat clean food and bust your ass. That I know works. Here are all the before and after pictures that prove it. Right? And that alone shouldn't have got as many people excited, really. A lot of it had to do with the music and the artwork and the set and the cast. The cast members were not typically mic'd with personalities. Cast members typically were unmiked, and they were perfect little fitness model robots in the background, with the person in the front being all perfect. And you know, without, you know, patting myself on the back while I tell you how awesome I am, I mean, I just made it fun, man. I made it fun, and I told silly jokes. And whenever I went too far, I had a director that went, "That's too far, dude." I did like a Hitler thing at one point, and I was like, you know, whatever. Moraine goes, "Jam and potato soup," whatever our cast members was German. "Well, if not, it's nothing but," nope, cut. I go, "Hitler too soon? The guy's pretty horrible. Why can't we make fun of him yet?" You know, whatever. But I mean, I found the edge of the envelope. You know, if that ain't a P90X move, I don't know what is. And I was an improv actor, and I was a member of Second City, LA, out of Chicago.
Yeah.
So I could think quick on my feet. You know what I mean? I could put a sentence together. I had a halfway decent vocabulary, and like at this event this weekend, it's just the way I'm wired. It's just the way I'm wired. Like I do an Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I do a Bruce Springsteen, and I do a Tom Petty, and I do a Billy Idol. I mean, I do voices, and and whatever. And so what I learned a long time ago, and comes from a kid who had a speech impediment for a lot of years. I mean, I couldn't even put a sentence together without making a mess of the thing, And so, I mean, that was basically, I think, the number reason why it was successful. The muscle confusion thing was because people didn't get bored, hurt, or plateau. The set was beautiful. Like everybody, whoever, buddy of mine, Phil, was in the cast. He's a lawyer, and he and I are just giving each other shit basically in the middle of the workout, which you never ever see. It was like watching a TV show. It was like watching a movie. Yeah. And not a boring and dull moment the entire time while you were getting your ass kicked. And we had modifications. Nobody did that before. Hey, here's so-and-so over here killing it. Yes, look at Sally. She's just marching in place right now. She's taking a break. You know what I mean? And everybody has copied all that shit, except I don't know anybody that's me yet.
Well, so to that point though, you were acting as well. Did you like cultivate because you come across as like a really kind of laid back guy and everything, but I've watched some of your videos, and you're very like aggressive and into it, and you are putting on a show, so to speak. Did you have to kind of cultivate a personality for that? Like, was that a conscious thing, or was it just like, no, this is authentically me, and this is how I'm wired?
As you talk to me now, am I any different than I am on camera?
I mean, I would just say, well, you're not hosting a workout, so it's a little bit different. Right? You're not trying to fire everybody up. Right. Well, like this weekend, everybody came up to me and said, "Man, you're exactly like you are in person as you are on those videos." Yeah. Like I read it. One of the most important books I ever read was Stephen Wolf's book, Romancing the Shadow. And it's basically about trying to, because a lot of people are they're not just one thing all the time. You're like at home with your family, or out at work, or out with your friends. We take on these different personas to protect ourselves, because maybe the real version of ourselves is full of shit. Yeah. You know what I mean? Or full of hyperbole, and so, there's there's your best self, and then there's that part of you that's kind of lame. And so how do you begin to eliminate the lame guy? Like, what aspects of that personality are serving you? Like just sleeping in, or smoking too much weed, or yelling at children because they're having fun in the yard. Like, you know what I mean? Like, what is it about you that you're being a bonehead or being whatever? Is that serve you? And so it just comes from, and I've read, dude, all these books behind me, half of them are personal development books. How to be a good husband, how to not spend all your money, which I made that mistake at the peak of P90X. Well, lesson learned, and a lot of it has to do with just my childhood. When you learn how to get rid of your speech impediment, and you feel really free to be able to structure a sentence and express yourself, and then you also do comedy for 2 years, and you do improv for 2 years. My journey when it comes to being able to disseminate, communicate, get a point across, whatever form of rhetoric that I'm using, just comes out naturally, man. It just kind of flows. What was your speech impediment? I'm curious. What was it?
It's called cluttering. There's stammering and stuttering, and I had cluttering.
What is it?
Cluttering usually comes from. Have you ever met anybody who talks really, really fast, and they're kind of hard to understand because they're going a million miles an hour? Sure. That's cluttering. Okay. Yeah. And then if your vocabulary is minimal, then the stuttering kicks in because you're going so fast, your brain can't come up with enough words. And now I can talk at a million miles an hour, but I got enough of a vocabulary so that I can. And then when you're listening to tapes and you're going, God, I got to slow down, man. And I figured if I slowed down, people would just walk away. They would be interested in what I was saying. So there's a lot of like young development stuff through junior high school, college when I first came out here. I went to all the seminars, Deepak Chopra, Andrew Weil, Tony Robbins, and you take bits and pieces that resonate, and then you leave the other stuff behind that doesn't.
So
here I am.
So to that point, let's talk about your newest stuff, the Power Nation stuff, because it's interesting, reading your book, which came out in 2014, was published in 2014.
11 years ago already. Yeah. And then I'm writing another one finally. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was curious because I got this and I looked at the copyright. I'm like, wow, this is 11 years old. Like it's not a recent work.
Time keeps on ticking into the future. I can't believe it, man. It's 2025. That number is the freakiest number in the world. And the fact that I'm going to be 67 is another freaky number.
Yeah, you look pretty good for 67.
Hold on. Go on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I stay out of the sun and I moisturize. That's basically, and I work
you're doing
out.
better than me in both categories then.
That sun ruined my skin, and I've been working on getting it back to normal ever since.
But it's also one of those tough ones, right? Because now we've got people that are afraid of the sun, and the sun is very good for you, right? Sunlight.
That's where the vitamin D is. Yeah, I mean, it just puts you in a great mood. I go out in the sun after 3 o'clock. I don't go. I'm not out there between 11 and 3 o'clock. I'm just, and if I am, I wear a big old hat. I work out at that hour. I go on hikes and I go run at that hour. I'm slathered in sunblock and I wear a big old hat that stays on my head,
But so let's talk about, I want, where I was getting with this, right?
I digress. Go for it.
No, it's okay. It's all good. Reading this book, but then you went through this pretty serious illness, this shingles thing, right? Shingles, whatever it's called, a reactivation essentially of this chickenpox.
Of the chickenpox, yeah.
Yeah, which definitely affected you. I watched some videos and it's clear that going through that experience, I think it seems like opened your eyes to some things, made you reevaluate some of the sort of balancing aspect of things. Because in this book, you're very much yin yang. Yeah, I'm not all that good on that aspect of it, right? I'm very go, go, go. And I think a lot of people are. And I think the older I get too, the more I realize the balancing aspect of it, the kind of, you're clearly bringing more kind of mindfulness into this practice and things like that. So talk about your evolution of holistic fitness and what that looks like for you now with the new program.
Well, it kind of started with kind of a triple whammy. Beachbody and I were like, what? 20 years of service and you want to pay me less money? Okay, that's weird. I got to go, And that was a massive decision that my wife and I kind of came to, and a little bit of a freak out there, I think a lot of people think that you're going to be able to ride a certain wave for a very long time, and the wave came to shore. And then within 2 days, there was the Vegas shooting, and I knew friends that were there. And then Tom Petty dies. I'm like, holy shit, man. It felt like the earth was caving in. And I was just super stressed because of the Beachbody thing. And then just hearing the stories of friends of mine watching people get picked off. It was just seemed insane to me. And then when Tom dies, I go, what's next? And I remember I had a group of people here to work out, and I just found myself screaming at them. They were like, whoa, he's in a bad way. And that's when it happened. I thought I was having a stroke, or I thought I was whatever. I had pinched a nerve in my neck. So I felt this burning sensation in my right ear, and it's called Ramsay-Hunt syndrome, and you don't want it because it affects your sight, your smell, your taste, and your balance. And so since I didn't take care of it right away, one of the people that were at the event this weekend is a doctor, and the minute he got it, he knew what it was. He started taking the antiviral medication, and he kind of, he had little Bell's palsy. I looked like Quasimodo on fire. It was really bad, and so I was in bed and vomiting and I lost 25 pounds. It was brutal. So, if you look at my lifestyle prior to that moment, it was like you say, go, 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 lift hard, train. You know what I mean? The pendulum was swinging basically in 5th and 6th gear almost all the time. And, great sleep some nights, terrible most. I had no mindfulness practice. I didn't really have much of a rest and recovery thing either. No red light therapy for me, no cryo chambers, no cold plunges. I'd get massage. My thing was sleeping, massage, and an occasional nap. That's the only way my body recovered. And that worked until I had that massive bout of stress and my ear lit up like a firecracker, And so I read John Kabat-Zinn's book, Full Catastrophe Living, because all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put me back together again. And the stuff in this book was kind of allowed me to get, and you can see, man, when I found something, folded, circled, boop, 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 they're all over the book. Because, the otorhinolaryngologist, AKA ear, nose, and throat person, which is that was a major area where I was suffering. I could not, to get me dressed, get me down to the car and get in the car and like a left turn, right turn. I was like, I needed a vomit bag in the car. And then I'd get out of the car and walk on the sidewalk to get in a doctor's office. You think I just run 3 marathons. It was brutal. My energy was zapped and it was horrible. And so whatever exercises they gave me, I couldn't do. So I read this book and I learned how to breathe and I learned how to meditate. And most of it didn't work at first. It just made me more irritated, Like you're a Navy SEAL. I mean, you guys the rumor is that you do 4x4 breathing, like when you're underwater and you're about to go off to bed.
I don't know that that's true. I don't know.
That's true. Yeah.
That.
I don't know. Maybe.
I think somebody made that
buddy,
up.
my buddy, I don't know if you know the name. He was SEAL team. He was out of, there's one in San Diego and there's one in, where's the other one? Where you train? Right. Bill Bondi was his Navy. I don't know if you know that name. He was a Navy SEAL commander. He went down to Central America and did stuff he's not allowed to tell me. But yeah, he goes, I never did any box breathing, dude. I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I do way more of that stuff now than I ever did.
Yeah. Yeah. So the meditation and the body scan meditation and the box breathing at various numbers gave me a little bit of relief. And so when I finally started getting better, I didn't let go of that, man, because I still know. I mean, I'm a Horton. My father was a tank commander in the Army. He was a son of a bitch. You know what I mean? If you ever watched The Great Santini, that movie, you know that movie?
Robert Duvall.
Duvall? Yep. My dad.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So part of my personality, my very strong personality, is a result of he wasn't from down south. I don't know why I'm doing my southern accent, but yeah, he was just that guy, And so that's kind of my part of my DNA. His father had it. My father's brother had it, still has it, and so it was already in there, which worked to my advantage when it came to just wanting to be regular with the exercise and be a coach and be a trainer, and all that. That's part of it. But for me to chill, like yesterday, I did a 3-hour workout. I mean, not all consecutive, one after another, but I'm doing the pegboard bit and I'm doing the parallel stuff and I'm doing the double rope, 20-foot double rope, and other guys were all in rotation. It's all, grip stuff. We're doing push-ups on 4 med balls. We're doing, handstand push-ups. This is an ass kicking, and it takes, when you got 4 guys and you're all going at once. And man, I just got in that pool and I just did some laps in the pool and I just sat at the edge of the pool. I got a nice view except for the burnt part. And I just sat there with my 2 dogs, man. And I realized, if I'm going to do that, then I have to do this. And in the old days, I would just run errands and run around and after a Sunday workout. Yeah, I have a lot of downtime. Like today, I slept 9.5 hours because I knew I didn't have anything going on. And so, I'm waking up a lot again at 7:30, which is when I normally get up. But yeah, I mean, I don't have the list in front of me, but I have a mindfulness list and I have a rest and recovery list, and they're different. Mindfulness is it's just reading and listening to music and petting your dog and whatnot. Rest and recovery is more cold plunge, cryo chamber, massage. Sure. You know what I mean? Where like I said, I had a massage once in a while in the old days, and sleeping and napping. Now my list, that was 3 things on those 2 lists. Now it's like almost 30 things.
Mm-hmm. How long were you sick for?
I was down and out sick 3 months.
Okay.
Couldn't get out of bed for 3 months. Started to get out of bed at the 3-month mark, but I was wrecked for about a year.
Yeah.
And I still have, and the after effect is something called bilateral vestibular hypofunction, which is like vertigo, but vertigo is sort of that circular thing that you get, right? Mine is more of a, shaky thing. And it usually happens with brain fog. I have some brain fog stuff, but
yeah, it's very typical. Like, so I come from this world too. I think it's one of those things that a lot of people that have never been in a chronic illness, have never suffered from a chronic illness, don't have any understanding of. But essentially you had a triggering event or multiple events that cascaded what's called an allostatic load, right? Like you just, you know, your cup overflowed essentially and tipped over. And that happens in myriad ways for people and causes things like chronic fatigue syndrome and fibromyalgia and everything. So I'm a
irritable bowel syndrome comes. You got leaky gut, leaky brain. You know what I mean? You know, I have a couple of autoimmune things on top of that. You know, shoot, I'm forgetting the two of them that I have. Probably blocking them out. So not Hashimoto's, but you know, different kinds of things.
Yeah. I mean, and it's really typical with veterans too, right? There's a thing in our circle now called operator syndrome, which is essentially just another form of that. But people don't know what to do with it because it feels like they go around and they chase treatments, and it's like a lot of it, you know, maybe some of that stuff works, but you have. Well,
I've discovered. I mean, I've been to 63 military bases from around the world, and I'm invited to come, you know, to help a lot of vets, a lot of, you know, active duty guys and gals start to do something other than just kick ass. You know what I mean? And especially PTSD and CTI and stuff like that. You know, I just sit down and talk to folks, and movement, meditation, mindfulness, whatever it is, works quite well for most, you know?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to brag. You ready, dude? Look.
Oh, nice. Those coins.
All coins, man.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Been, you know, from Kosovo to South Korea, Japan, all over up and down the United States. Threw up 3 times on it. Well, you read the book, you know.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
Threw up in that F-15D, I think. It's a D or a C. And then I got in a Thunderbird, threw up in that. And then, they make the brand new F-15s out in Maryland, I think. And one of the guys is a head engineer. He goes, "Come out, man. Let's go flying again." Yeah, I'm good. You know?
So what does that look like then in practice? Like what we're talking about here in terms of your new program, in terms of Power Nation and how that fits into, you know, you've got kind of these 4 pillars there. You got food, you got supplements, you got, I think is it meditation or mindfulness?
Yep.
Mindset.
Meditation, mindset,
and fitness.
Mindset, you know, it's food, it's fitness, it's supplementation, and it's mindfulness. Those are the 4. Yeah.
And how does it, like, what, I guess get into some specifics there potentially, right? So like, has your take on food, I mean, probably not fitness, but what's your current take on food? Like what's your, if you're prescribing that for somebody, what does that look like?
You know, look, we have a 400-page thing on the website about food.
Got it.
And we go after everybody, you know what I mean? Whether you're paleo, pescatarian, vegetarian, vegan, you know, plant-based, primal, you know, look, you know, and everybody's different. Ectomorphs, mesomorphs, endomorphs, people with a high metabolism, you know what I mean? People who are disciplined, people who aren't, you know what I mean? And all we try to say is, can you eat more plants along with whatever else you're doing? You know what I mean? And cut out the fat, sugar, salt, and chemicals, cut out the processed food, cut out the fast food and everything else, you know? And so, and more fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. What does that look like for you? You can come underneath any category. What works for me, and when I spoke about it this past weekend is, and we had this woman who had gained and lost over 700 pounds. Her name was Michelle Pettis, and she got up and told her story. And she talked about her strategies, techniques, methods, whatever you want to say, in regards to how you can lose gain, and then finally find a method that helps you keep the weight off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And her method is, and by the way, I don't care. You could have somebody hold your hand every damn day and you're still going to screw it up, you know, because you're a food addict. You know, people are just food addicts. Like sugar is no different than cocaine inside your head, man. The dopamine flush and everything else is like, you know, you get a chocolate bar, and some people can have that chocolate. Like me, I can have a little piece of chocolate, and that, you know, I don't want a second one. I kind of want a second one, but I also know that a second and third one are going to cause more problems than anything else. And so her whole philosophy is simply, and it would be an hour and a half conversation about that. If it doesn't have the nutrients and doesn't supply the energy and the vitamins that she needs to have the best possible outcome, she doesn't eat it. So bacon is out and soda is out and donuts are out and bagels are out and Doritos are out and Dr. Pepper's out, all the shit that most of America's stuck on. For me personally, I'm plant-based and except for when I don't want to be, if circumstance pops up where it's like, oh, I'm in Jackson Hole and there's elk medallion and it's medium rare and it's on the menu, I'm going to eat it. You know what I mean? Oh, is that wild salmon on the menu? I'm going to eat it. You know what I mean? But for me, after I got out of Ramsay Hunt syndrome and I was tested, it was like a 138-page test with all these markers on every single food, like page after page after page. And it went from red to green and various colors in between. If it was somewhere between yellow and red, I had to not eat it for 3 weeks just because of the leaky gut. There's the gut-brain connection. Yep. And so I didn't realize that, that there was, no rice, no sesame seeds, no tomatoes, no cashews, no wheat, no soy, no corn, no dairy. So that's a massive category right there. And so after I did that, because I was still lingering with the Ramsay Hunt and everything and the vestibular issues. And as soon as I cut all this shit out, excuse my French, I had energy again. And I wanted to go to the gym again. My brain was functioning better again. And I used to be in forever because I wanted an occasional burger and I wanted to go to the ball game and have a hot dog. And how bad is white bread anyway? Well, I had a massive gluten issue. I don't think I was celiac, but I had, gluten issues. And as a result of my diet that was mostly healthy, most of the time, I thought I had to go get PRP and Synvisc injected in my knees every year, which was like a $3,500 not covered by insurance thing. I changed my diet to plant-based. I don't have shoulder problems anymore. I don't have knee problems anymore. I don't have back problems anymore. I don't have joint pain. Now, how does the food that goes in your mouth affect your joints? It just does, And so I couldn't even really explain the science of it. I just know that, if I had a bacon cheeseburger, I'd wake up with achy joints the next day purely because it's inflammatory inside of my body. Not only, and we're talking mostly organs, right? The stuff on the inside that either kills you or keeps you alive, depending on how you treat it, right? So yeah, that's, and it kind of works for me. But now I have just put out yesterday the the 2025 Summer Body Fat Challenge to friends and family and some fans. Because I'm a little chunky right now, Shuck. I'm.
Well, yeah, sure. What's chunky look like for you?
Chunky is about 14% body fat.
Okay.
That's not good for me. I need to be about 10 and 11. So okay. I eat a lot of vegan, gluten-free, organic cookies, crackers, and chips. Mm-hmm. They got to go, man. You know what I mean?
Yeah, all that shit's been corrupted though, right? Because as soon as it was like, I don't remember the first time I saw it in an airport, it was like organic gummy bears. And I was like, what the hell are we doing? Like, this is.
No, man.
That doesn't mean they're good for you.
All of you that are switching over, we're going to figure out a way to get you back. You know what I mean? By putting organic gluten-free gummy bears on at the airport.
Yeah, right. Yeah. I was even like the other day, there's like a bottle of wine and the woman behind the register was like, ooh, gluten-free. And I was like, I'm pretty sure all wine is gluten-free.
I think it's always been gluten-free.
And
yeah.
It doesn't matter. Like that doesn't make it better for you in any regard. So what about supplementation? Like, certainly if you're 100% plant-based, I think you actually have to supplement some certain.
You got to supplement your protein for sure.
Right.
But if you look at all the seeds and nuts and vegetables and how much like legumes, like beans, you can like 1 cup of pinto beans or legumes has 15 grams of protein in it. Yeah, most protein powders have 15 grams of protein in it. You know what I mean? Except for the stuff that bodybuilders will buy at whatever, that have maybe 30 or something. So I just left my supplement company after 5 years. We didn't see eye to eye on some things. For me, if I'm going to be involved with something, and you don't always know right away, there's got to be transparency. And integrity. And anybody watching this knows that's what P90X was. Work your ass off and eat right. I'm not going to, no smoke and mirrors here, man. You can do it or you can't. If you don't have the discipline, we'll go find something easier and you're not going to get the results that you're looking for, right? Your producer pretty much said that loud and clear before our call. And that was the case with these 55 people that were at this event this weekend. You know, I mean, they got the memo and they figured it out. And a lot of them were there because they kind of lost their way and they wanted to get reconnected to doing the right thing. And apparently what we were doing, and all our speakers and all our trainers got most of these folks back on track. But you know, I mean, I don't know. I'm digressing again. What was the question, Chris?
Supplements in general, like I mean,
supplements. Hold on.
In this
Let
book,
me
you
backtrack.
talk about omegas. You talk about vitamin D. And I'm just kind of
Vitamin D3.
Yep. D3.
Zinc, all those things. I mean, I take a handful of supplements every day. I do 2 shakes a day. You know, CoQ10, ginkgo. You know, I mean. I can't even begin to think of them all, you know. And this is going to an endocrinologist / nutritionist, somebody who I meet with, you know, twice a year. And she takes, she's like a vampire. She takes like 12 vials of blood and all kinds of things, you know, from your basic cholesterol to all your thyroid issues and, you know, and testosterone, free testosterone, and the list goes on and everything else, right? So like the last time I don't take anything, and no HGH, nothing. I don't, you know, it's my protein powder and my supplements and my testosterone was 840 something.
It's good.
Not bad for a 66-year-old,
good.
you know?
Yep.
And it seems to be working, you know, I mean, and so if you look at any high school, college, or professional athlete, they're all taking something, man, because if you're beating the crap out of yourself, a standard American diet, especially if it's a plant-based or vegan one, is not going to give you what you need to recover, be part of the recovery process so that your muscles and tendons and ligaments heal so that you can come back the next day. I'm a 6-day-a-week guy, right? So I hammered myself yesterday. You know what I mean? Like I can barely straighten my arms, right? So tonight is cardio, right? Tonight's just sort of a, you know, and I'm going to go stationary bike, endless rope, heavy bag, treadmill, VersaClimber, rower, jump rope station, skier, slide board. 9 stations, twice, 3 minutes each. Then we go out in the front yard and do 130 meter hill sprints 8 times. 3 speeds. So
that's intense cardio, man.
Yeah, dude, burn that shit off. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
right?
don't get me wrong, I like it, but that's like when people think cardio.
Yeah, I mean, I like it because I figured out a way that keeps me coming back, and I invite all my pals. You know what I mean? So we're all in the room, and we got the music cranked up, and we go, and this routine, and then of course, then Wednesday night is plyo for me. So it's not plyo boxes. I mean, that's sometimes I do that on Fridays, but it's just, you know, you like jumping lunges, jumping squats, blah, blah, blah. We do, you know, 20 exercises anywhere from 30 to 100 reps each. It's just no weights. Nobody's holding the weight. We're just getting off the ground as high as we can. We're going as low as to the floor as we can. And so at 66 this past winter in Jackson Hole, if you're a skier or snowboarder, the top of the tram.
I live in a ski town, so yes.
Where do you live?
Whitefish, Montana.
Oh, dude, come down and play with me, man. Come on.
I would love to. Yeah.
Well, come to Ted and Tony's yoga retreat next year. You got my information. We'll make sure you're all set up. But so the tram to the bottom is 4,000 feet. I just skied to the top to the bottom, and I could do that only in the last 3 years. I couldn't do it in my early 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s, teens. No way. But I can do it now. Yeah. Because of my training. You know, I mean, aging's for idiots.
What is changing? What do you mean by that, actually? What is... I mean, certainly you talk about...
I had a shirt and people bought it. It was called Aging is for Idiots. And of course, I wrote that because it starts a conversation, because a lot of people are very offended by that. You know what I mean? But you know, the writing aging is for people who aren't willing. Aging is for people who aren't willing to put the time and effort into slowing it down by doing the right thing. Yeah. You know, that's another way.
It's not as catchy.
Not as catchy. So, but it's less offensive. So there's that.
Yeah, that's their issue.
Yeah. You know, aging is for people who really don't, aging in a traditional manner is for people who aren't willing to figure out alternative way of living outside of what their parents and grandparents and ancestors did, and maybe their peers or whatever. You know what I mean? Like everybody knows that the quality of your life and your demise comes as a result of environment, environment, behavior, and genetics, right? So environment and behavior, environment and behavior, I can change. Ended up with that.
You did. Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
F you, Chris. Let me tell you, I'm making a point here.
Yeah.
So your environment is, your air, your water, the company that you keep, you know what I mean? Your stress levels, right? And behavior is, are you going to work out? Are you going to exercise? Do you have a mindfulness practice or not? If you don't have any of those things and you're in traffic all day and you're mean, you're screaming, and your cortisol levels are through the roof and your adrenal glands are fried. Well, yeah, you're susceptible to heart attack, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, cancers, up and down. But if you're a super fit monk on a mountain drinking, water from a brook that starts in a fjord, whatever. There's a lot of ways. Like all our water, I got water filters all through the house. And we have a whole house tap. So the water that comes out of our sinks and my shower is already super filtered. And then I quadruple
we have the same
filter.
thing. I've got a whole house like Aquasana filter in the garage that like does all this stuff to pull.
Yep. And we think we know what the source of our food is, but look, you go to Whole Foods and find just as much garbage there as you can anywhere else. You got to be careful, and the supplement piece is a way to sort of combat, foods that are overcooked, they've been stored too long or processed or whatever it is. And there's a lot of stuff to know. And if you're willing to put the time and effort into it, then you can not only change your environment and your behavior, but you can change your genetics in your lifetime. It's called epigenetics. It's nothing, nothing that we don't already know about. So you just, I told people last night, who has parents in their like 70s, 80s, maybe even their 90s, and like a lot of folks have their hands in there. Keep your arms up if they're just killing it. They're just fit as a fiddle, and they're strong, and they're sharp, and they're riding their mountain bikes, and they're skiing with me, and all but 2 hands came down. I go, that's you people now, right? Like you are them and they are you, and that's it. You got to behave differently than they do. So, when 40 something hands came down, it meant that their parents weren't living the lifestyle that these people were hopefully trying to live. And it has to be like, Tony, how often how often do you brush your teeth, and how often do you breathe, and how often do you go to bed, and how often do you go to work, and how often do you pay your bills? All the time. And those people, they survive, and that's cute. Right, but they're not on the Appian Way in Italy on their mountain bike for 4.5 hours, like my wife and I. Right. You know what I mean? They're in their car looking at this shit with binoculars. Like, which one of those? Do you want to come to Jackson Hole and just watch from the tram ski, or do you want to rip some pow at 100 miles an hour? You know what I mean? Like, some people just don't want to live that large. They don't want to push that much.
No, you're right. So some people,
but, you can do it. You can do it. Some people you can lead a horse to water, man, but.
Are there things though that you've changed as you've gotten older, where you do it differently or whatever? Like you just approach things differently than you did 20, 30 years ago?
A lot. Most of it is 70% of it is I still lift on days where I feel like I can go. I'll lift heavy. I'm not afraid to lift heavy. Knees are good. Shoulders are good. I'll get on an incline bench press and push some, heavy for me now. I mean, I used to bench 75s. Heavy for me now is like 60s. I can't lift as heavy. I do a lot more high rep dumbbell rehab type moves. I move where you go up here, a lot of that stuff, right. a lot more bands. I warm up longer now. Animal flow yoga's been a piece of my thing forever. I mean, I never miss yoga. I do it every week. I teach a class every Friday here at my house. And of all the people that I invite, and I invite dozens and dozens, I never get more than 2 people who show up to yoga. Just because I don't know what's wrong with people. And I keep saying, hey man, if you want to be more durable and less vulnerable as you move forward through this journey, you better figure it out. Animal flow is a way to get there. Pilates is a way to get there.
Are you doing hot yoga at all, or is it just or like?
No, in my house, I just turn the heat on.
Yeah.
And close the doors and windows, and it's probably like 80 in there. It's not hot yoga. And I've done hot yoga, and I enjoy it. I just don't, when I'm in Jackson Hole, I'll go to an occasional hot yoga class. But most of the yoga that I do is just regular temperature yoga. Hatha flow. That's kind of my thing. Surya Namaskar A, B, blah blah blah. Warrior 1, Warrior 2. Whatever. triangle, right angle pose, half moon, reverse half moon. You know, I mean, the stuff that's kind of P90X stuff. You know, that's that. But I would say that the big changes is for me that I've discovered maybe about 5 years ago that I put as much emphasis on as everything else is speed, balance, and range of motion. That's where the gold is when it comes to getting older. So speed, for example, is, do you do push-ups at the same rate? No, man. You slow them down or you speed them up. You know, how do you, and that's why I'm running out in the hill. I read an article in the New York Times that 80% of Americans after the 80, I think that's maybe what it was. A percentage of Americans after the age of 30 will never run fast again. I'm like, I haven't been running fast. I used to go to the track and do it back in the day, but it's been over a decade.
It's a good point.
It's time.
Yeah. I never thought about that, but you're right. People just don't do that.
When do you go?
Run. They just go run slow.
Right. The only time they run is when they're playing a picnic or a corporate baseball game, and they hit the ball, and then halfway between home plate and first base, both hamstrings go.
That's exactly right. Yes, that's right.
Right.
Yep.
So running fast isn't something that you just go out and do. You know, like our warm-ups are forever. And I've already pulled I think I'm doing the sprint thing, I don't know, almost a year, maybe about 9 months, adding that to my cardio circuit. I've pulled one of my two hamstrings at least 6 times already. And it's like, oh, well, there's that for the next 4 weeks or whatever, you know. So, and because there's all, you know, that you're like, oh, I feel good today, you know, and I got my stopwatch in my hand. And, you know, and then we're doing the warp wall at the ninja course in Santa Ana. And I got all the way up, got the end. I go, oh, and my wife goes, I didn't see it. Oh, fuck, son of a, you know, it's like these suckers are vulnerable when they're 66 years old. But so what? You know, you do your RICE acronym, and you come back another day, man, you know.
On that recovery stuff, what do you do that works the best for you? You know, between like red light therapy, ice baths, sauna, you know.
I would say foam rolling.
Foam
rolling is number one, whether it's a rumble roller, a regular thing, or just like I have double lacrosse ball, single lacrosse ball in the chest, in the shoulder, and the IT, that seems to be, and it's the most painful, of course, you know. Cold plunges, I had 2 of them. I gave them both away.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, because the maintenance on them is a pain in the ass.
Like the, you know, fountain of youth is cold plunge. Like you're gonna live forever if you're.
You know what? I don't heat my pool, and it's probably, you know, whatever, 62 degrees, and that seems to do it for me. Or I just get in I have a bathtub, right? I just fill it with cold water, and it's plenty ass cold, and that seems to do enough. Yeah, the whole cold plunge trend, I don't know if that'll still be as popular a couple of years from now. And the part of it, there's the whole filter and the on and off, and the filter turns black. And what am I, a maintenance man now too with my cold plunge? Whatever, you know, I have other ones. And I love a good nap, a new fighter nap. I don't know. A friend of mine was Bill, before he was a Navy SEAL, was a Navy pilot. So he told us about fighter naps and how that was kind of a key thing. You know, don't do more than 20 minutes or you're not going to wake up and know what day it is. And I've learned that lesson. I used to take a nap. I go, whatever, I'll wake up whenever. And I wake up, you know, an hour and a half later and I'm just worthless. Because my circadian cycle is like, is this nighttime? What are you doing? Is it going to bed now? Or you're just like REM, deep, whatever, you know? And so I just, little quickies, and they help me. But when it comes to sore muscles and whatnot, you know, cold shower after regular shower, getting a cold tub, Epsom salt baths, favorite. 2 cups, boom, boom. That gives me great relief. And I'm also somewhat genetically set up. I'm already pretty flexible anyway.
Oh, okay.
Like yoga I can not do yoga for 2 months and I can get right back in the game. I am naturally a little bit on the flexible side. And I also know how to back off. You know what I mean? I so that I don't have to be spending too much time doing recovery stuff, rest and recovery stuff. I know that the day before, like yesterday I was really sore. Today's a completely different modality, right? It's all cardio. The heavy bag is arms, but I'm not lifting anything. The VersaClimber's arms, but I'm not doing, you know, pike presses, right? So, you know, one's hypertrophy. The other one is just cardiovascular, just working heart, lungs, and mostly legs, right? Yeah. So, Yeah, so I don't get hurt a lot except for running the warp wall for the second time because I wanted to show off in front of all the participants and my wife. Yeah, and that happened on the first day, so that kind of made the rest of the weekend a challenge. But I did it.
You mentioned a new book. What's the book about?
It's called right now, working title, Vitality 60 Plus.
Okay.
Yeah, and so it's basically a lot because a lot of boomers are just dropping like flies, man. You know, and even more so than the great generation, the ones that came ahead of us. You know, the people that fought World War II. They're all living into their 80s and 90s. You know, my generation, they're all in walkers already, and they just, you know. So it's just, and we're a lot of interviews. You know, we interviewed Kathy Smith, who's 60 plus now. Who's a big guru, and Jalad is another one who maybe you'll have to Google him.
Yeah.
You know, these people in the fitness industry. And then Dr. John Rady too, guy who wrote Spark, The Effects of Physical Activity. Have you ever read Spark? You know that book?
I haven't. No, I've read a different
come on.
book called Spark.
There we go. That's the book that said, "Don't be an actor, be a trainer." The Magic Lamp. That's a classic one. That's for everybody who's looking in. Keith Ellis's book. It's a good, a lot of great lessons. One of the main reasons why I'm sitting here next to you is because in one of the chapters it said, go out of your way and do something nice for somebody that you don't like or you're in conflict with. And I did that to a guy. He introduced me to Carl Dyko, who was a CEO.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you don't like me.
No, man. I like you a lot so far. This book too, if it's not on your list.
Oh, it's a great book. Great book.
Great book.
Yep.
You mouth tape?
I don't, but because I don't have to. I've never been a mouther either. My wife does. So she got into taping, years ago. My wife is very good in terms of being an early adopter. So she's a celiac. She figured that out before anybody knew what it was, basically. Like, she was gluten-free. But I remember going to restaurants when we were first dating and being like, hey, what do you have here that's gluten-free? And the waiter or waitress or whatever would just be like, I don't know what you're talking about.
What are you talking about?
What the hell is gluten, right? And then they would get all confused too. They'd be like, oh, sorry, there's rice with that, so I guess you can't eat that. Like, there's no gluten in rice, not a problem. Nobody, and now it's completely changed, right? Everybody knows what that was. But she figured that out long ago. And then even before that book, Breath, James Nestor, she was, I don't know if she came across that because she is a mouth breather and will fall asleep with her mouth open and started taping, where I was like, is that safe? Like, taping your mouth shut while you're sleeping? Like, well,
it reteaches this thing how to work properly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's huge. I mean, hugely helps her in a big way.
Yeah. And a lot of underlining in this one too. And just great stories about those Indians, that Indian tribe with perfectly straight teeth. Yeah. You know, I remember that section, and they're all like, they all look like, you know, Olympic swimmers, and like, what is that? You know, and this is Spark here. This is John Rady's book, Spark.
Okay. I'll check it out.
It's just, and when I used to be like a 2, 3, 4 day a week guy, and I realized that if I really wanted to, you know, kind of get to the next level, I realized that fitness has to be priority one. You can still take care of your family. You can still go to work. You can still be the person you need to be. You just need to slot out those maybe 6 to 9 hours a week, you know, and there's a crap load of hours in the week. So you can find 6 or 9. And I was finding like 4 and 5, and it made a huge difference for me because, you know, mostly for this is the, you know, norepinephrine, dopamine, serotonin, brain derived neurotropic factor. I mean, that's what comes from movement. You know what I mean? I mean, that's why I love yoga. It's balance, it's strength, it's flexibility, and you get to learn to be calm in the storm while you're in your bare feet and a jock strap.
That's why I like the hot yoga, because I get a detox effects of it too at the same time.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
That's why I dig it, because it's like you know, if I can't, I like things where I can get multiple bites of the apple with one thing, you know. So it's like, hey, I'm not going to do a sauna, but I can go do hot yoga, and I'm getting all the sauna effects while I'm doing yoga. You know?
Yeah, man. Yeah, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. And all this reading and all this learning from all these books, you know, that question you asked me a bit ago, like, you know, what have you learned and what have you added? it's the same thing with the physical piece to it. You know what I mean? Like the speed, balance, and range of motion stuff that I now do, you know, like the martial arts, it's got the speed, and the track stuff's got the speed, and then the various speed in which I'm doing. I don't do fast curls. There's no real value in that. But I'm always experimenting with, you know, I time a lot of my stuff that I do. Like I have one thing that's called speed beam, where I'm going around this beam with pegs and bars and trying to pick up the speed. And, you know, because old folks move slowly, and old folks fall off the curb and break their hip and go in the ICU and die 2 weeks later, you know, and old folks
That's
can't touch their
essentially how
toes.
my grandfather died. It's exactly that way.
Wow, man, that happens. That happens dozens of times every day across this
Broke
country.
his leg.
If I fall off a curb, I'm gonna do a forward roll, then go into a handspring, and then jump in my car. You know, and I fall sometimes, and ouch. I mean, I fell skiing pretty hard this season, like kadoosh, down, face, shoulder, and I got the wind knocked out of me, and I might have separated a rib, but I kept skiing. You know, if I was not in shape, that would have been a bit of a rehab. Yeah.
Do you do any breath work? Like you mentioned the box breathing before, but do you do anything like that in your various routines? I
do big in the routine. Well, they're not in the middle of a fitness routine, but if you go to Power Nation, there's a ton of meditation, body scan, breath work workouts in there.
Oh, okay, cool.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the routines is called Power Sync 60. It's the one that's kind of geared toward women, but men do it too, because it can be as hard as you want it to be. It's for pre, post, and perimenopausal women, picking the right workout and creating a schedule based on whether you're in one of those three categories, which we've never done before. And so
you mentioned body scanning too, or do you do like yoga nidra or NSDR or something, that kind of practice? Or
no, I just have I have what's it called? One of those Aero scales. They're like $400. And,
okay. Got it.
You know what I mean? It does water weight, muscle mass,
different thing. Yeah.
Heart rate and all that kind of thing. I've got on mine and hopefully that'll go down about 4% in a couple of months.
Yeah. Cause like you said, looking a little junky there, Tony.
Yeah, man. Look at that. It's a little tiny.
I realize we're way over time, and I appreciate you.
Hey, I'm fun to talk to, Chris, and so are you. So the folks will enjoy it, I hope.
The last question I want to ask you is just kind of about how you see community kind of factoring into this. Bruna at the beginning mentioned how when COVID happened, and she was like, "Okay, I got to work out by myself again." P90X, great, that works, awesome. And I experienced something similar, which I've talked about on the podcast before, where I went from working out at the CrossFit gym every day to I got to work out at home, but I'm good. I used to own a CrossFit gym. I was a trainer. I know how to do all this stuff, right? Like I'm not worried about it.
Right.
And then I was kind of like, well, I'm good here. I'm just going to stay with it. But after a couple of years, it was like, that's not what I miss. What I'm missing is the community aspect of this, right? And so you had a program that was like on DVDs and then online where people are doing it by themselves or whatever, but clearly that's a big piece of it. So how do you, and you talk about like working out with your buddies and how much better that is, right? So how do you, I guess, look at that in terms of what you do and cultivating that and the importance of it? Because I think it's such an important, often overlooked aspect of fitness is how much better it can be with other people.
And to each their own, I mean, a lot of people, there's this one girl, Kathy, who did P90X, and she was 5'0" and she lost 110 pounds. And at the end of it, she weighed 110 pounds, and she had the wherewithal to go down. And she was a legal secretary who had to take the bus to work. And her husband just thought she was full of crap and stuff, spending all this money and all this fitness stuff. But somehow she had the energy and enthusiasm to go down to her basement and do P90X, Power 90 for three times, 3 rounds. So that's 9 months. And then she did P90X again by herself with her husband going, I'm being a real bonehead. And then she showed up at a shoot because she won a contest, and I watched her do 10 pull-ups. And on day one of Power 90, she couldn't do a single push-up on her knees. Yeah. So amazing. I don't know who you are, and you're amazing, and that's incredible. And I'm very envious of that. Not me. And that's not most people. Post-COVID, a lot of people are excited to get back into groups of people and meeting other people and doing something with other people, because I work harder when there's dudes in the room. Yeah, tonight there's going to be four guys, and it's not like we're competing. But it's just like, oh, okay, I see you. Wham, wham, wham on that Versa climber. What's your heart rate? Fuck, you know.
Yeah,
right.
It's definitely competing. Like there's an aspect there. It's great.
And yesterday I had 3 guests here, people that came from the camp. All my pals bailed because it was Mother's Day. Bunch of losers. I'm kidding. And so it was more instructional for me, right? Just to kind of share the experience with these guys. But on Mondays, cardio, anywhere from 4 to 9 of us here. There's 9 stations. So, and then Tuesday mornings, it's bench, shoulders, and arms lately. And again, anywhere from 2 to as many as 6. Wednesdays is plyo out in the side yard. So I'll invite 30 people, and sometimes I get 24. Sometimes I only get like 5 or 6. And then Thursday, same crew from Tuesday. And then yoga, I invite 30 to show up. Typically I had 4 a couple of weeks ago, which was amazing. And Saturday is my day off, and then there's my circuit. So, you know, if everybody canceled on one of those workouts, it's hit or miss whether I'm going to go in there by myself and do it.
Yeah.
You know? And I think what a lot of the folks said this past weekend was they never worked harder. They never enjoyed it more because of all the people in the room.
Yep.
Like I was like, I never worked this hard on my own, and I actually enjoyed it. I never sweat this much. Like I heard that over and over and over again. So that's what's great about CrossFit. That community, man. The folks are tight. You know, they hang together. They eat together. They share stories together. They hang with each other's families, and that's who we are as a race. Yeah. You know what I mean? I mean, you learn more when you know more people. You know, I mean, I've learned so much from so many other people who were. I didn't expect to learn. Like we had 6 doctors and 5 guys named Chris. Who knew? That was fun, you know. And this weekend, a lot of Chris's. It was wild.
Yeah, there's a lot of us.
So there's friends for life that I will have from this weekend, you know. And I agree with you. If you can go solo, and sometimes you do it. Otherwise, find your tribe, man. That in all my seminars, find your tribe is on that list of top 10 of things to need to do to be successful. Yep. Absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. Hey, Chris, pleasure meeting you. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me on.
No, I really appreciate it, Tony. Thanks so much, man. We'll see you. Thanks for listening to On the X, the official podcast of the Navy SEAL Foundation and an IRONCLAD original series sponsored by Mechanix Wear. Learn more at NavySealFoundation.org or text On the X to 60104. See you next time.